Hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Geekdom 101, and I seen this and I thought this was going to be quite an interesting one. Senzu Beans explained. What are Senzu Beans? How do they work? And I'm hoping it goes into like little things. I love these Geekdom videos because it's never just what it's like the title is. There's always like where the idea came from, or like the concept behind it, or like maybe someone suggested it kind of thing. You know, behind the scene things, not just like literally what we see on the screen, but what was happening behind the scenes. Hopefully go into depth on that as well. That'd be cool. I love Geekdom 101 videos. They're never what I expect. I always learn something. Let's do this.
Senzu beans are something that a lot of us here in the real world wish actually existed.
Hell yes.
Anytime you've been
Be
sick,
so
whether
good.
it be a chronic illness or something a little less serious, a Senzu bean could fix it all up.
Boom.
But what are Senzu beans? How do they
What
work?
are they?
And where did Toriyama come up with the idea?
There we go.
For
Cool.
Senzu beans. Where did the inspiration for them come
Awesome.
from? On this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, we're going to look at the secret, mystical properties of Senzu beans and where Toriyama got inspired
Cool.
from, and how they actually work and their importance to Dragon Ball. All of that is next.
Class. Alright. Introduction to Senzu.
Now, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that Toriyama created Senzu beans purely as a plot device.
Yeah.
An item or an
Of course.
artifact that can be used to heal somebody from, at times, even
Near
near-death
death,
experiences
yeah.
and bring them back to full health just by eating a Senzu bean, or even eating a part of a Senzu bean. Can
Yeah,
heal
Krillin's
you
cut me in half,
very,
hasn't he,
very
at times,
quickly.
and gone, "Here you
And
go."
these magical beans have been used time and time again in Dragon Ball, but the first time that we ever saw them was back during the Piccolo arc of Dragon Ball. After Son Goku had gotten almost killed by the old Demon King Piccolo,
Damn.
Yajirobe took him to the sacred Karin lands where they met Karin-san once again, and Master Karin had this magic bean that at first kind of hurt Goku when he ate it,
Yeah.
but quickly afterward it healed him of all of his injuries.
Cool.
This is the Senzu. Karin explains that not only does the Senzu heal you from your injuries, it also can keep your belly full for 10 days.
Whoa, that's
Now, there
cool.
are
So no need to
limitations
eat.
to these things. Although they can heal broken bones and heal broken teeth and blood wounds and cuts and things like that, they cannot regrow limbs unless you are a character that already has
that
the ability
ability.
to regrow limbs
Yeah,
on its
like
own,
Piccolo.
like a Piccolo, for
Rah!
example, or another Namekian.
So cool.
However, there is one reference to Senzu possibly regrowing your limbs. In the Trunks story, the story of Trunks
The future
manga
one,
chapter
yeah.
that was later adapted into the
The
Dragon
OVA.
Ball Z television special
So
about
good.
Trunks' future,
So good.
he does state that if they had a Senzu, that they could possibly grow Gohan's limbs back. So it is possible, but I don't believe we've ever actually
Huh.
seen it in the series. Also, it's a bit unclear as to whether or not Senzu can heal specific kinds of illnesses. For example,
Like
when Goku gets the
heart virus, why didn't they give him a
both in the
Senzu
future
bean? Yeah.
timeline and the present timeline,
He dies.
Senzu cannot cure that from him.
So there's
Likewise,
limitations.
Later on in Dragon Ball Super, there was an episode where Gohan's
Oh,
daughter
yeah.
Ken was sick.
Why not go
and they
see the
wanted to
Senzu
summon
bean?
the dragon to heal her from her illness. Why were the beans not used here?
Huh.
Because they probably wouldn't work. So they are limited, but they're still extremely useful. We
Mhm.
see the characters use them
All
in
the
some of
time.
the most critical moments.
Look
in
at
the
Cell,
series,
that
like
was
the battle
so-
with
oh.
Cell, and later on during Resurrection F, and that's just a couple of times. They would be used to heal up wounds after a huge battle multiple times. But how do they actually heal these wounds? Where did Toriyama get the idea from for the Senzu beans? I will give you the answer in the next section.
Okay. The legend of the sage beans. Try saying that with a serious voice. I can't, as you could just tell.
In order to delve into where Toriyama got the idea for Senzu and the incredible mystical Taoist inspiration behind it, the name Senzu itself gives you a clue. When you actually dissect the meaning of the word Senzu, you come to find out what's really going on.
Okay.
First of all, Sen is a shortened version of the word Senin, which is essentially an old hermit
Yeah.
or a wise man or a sage. Like, for example, Master Roshi's name, Kame Sennin, the turtle hermit, or the Crane Master's name, Crane Hermit. These are some of the most wisest, oldest, and respected sages in the history of culture over there in that side of the world. So that's where that first word comes from, and Zu means bean. So if you ever watch Dragon Ball subtitled and they refer to Senzu as sage beans, that's actually an accurate literal translation, even though most of the Western world calls it Senzu beans because the English dub chose to use just the Japanese name, which is fine because a lot of anime does that.
They do that,
They choose to stick with the original Japanese names, but what's kind of funny is if you say Senzu bean, you're actually saying sage bean. So you're being redundant. Kind of like if you say ATM machine, the M stands for machine. So you're saying machine twice. Either way, it doesn't matter. Now you know that Senzu means sage beans. Now, what does that really mean, though? Where is the historical importance of a sage bean? Well, if you've played any kind of video game, especially a Japanese RPG, you know that there's always going to be magic herbs and magic items that can heal you. Potions in Final Fantasy, herbs in Dragon Quest, and the list goes on and on. So the idea of having a plant with healing properties is something that we see all over fiction, especially from the East. And in addition to that, we find out in Dragon Ball that Karin actually grows the Senzu within his own little area in his tower.
Of course he does.
There is a plant that he cultivates this healing power from. The idea of immortality pills and healing medicine that can be turned into a bean form or a small round object is extremely common in Taoism. And if you study the history of Dragon Ball, the culture behind Dragon Ball, like Derek Padula has done in his Dragon Ball culture books, you come to learn how much inspiration
That's Toriyama a cool picture. I like
Taoist beliefs. There is so many little things that are so much deeper than surface level when you examine Dragon Ball, and not just Dragon Ball, other manga as well, that it's always been very interesting. Derek in his book brings up something called external alchemy, or Waidun, and he discusses that essentially the Senin, the sages, are able to cultivate themselves and grow their own energy, sort of like the Senzu beans and other kinds of fruits and whatnot can grow themselves. And what ends up happening is the master places a seed inside of his disciple, sort of like a metaphysical, metaphorical seed, but in some cases they can be interpreted as being literal seeds. And these herbal concoctions can elicit internal responses and produce fruits like supernatural powers, immortality, or enlightenment.
Right.
And essentially, he will plant the seeds supernaturally into his disciples, and then they will do it to their disciples, and thus so on and so forth.
Right,
they continue from generation to generation. In the first century, Taoists believed that if you want to seek immortality, you have to perfect the absolute essentials, which include consuming great medicine. So that's why, again, you always see sort of herbal supplements, alternative medicine
just
coming
munching
from
away
outside of the world, and you see it both in fiction and in the real world.
I'll live
Go to
forever.
any health food store, you'll probably see a section of Asian medicine, Korean ginseng, Chinese herbs. They're everywhere if you go to a health food store. And because of that, for centuries, they believed there was a form of magic granted to them by the gods in these medicines. Each ingredient gives you a certain percentage of yin and yang, which balances the body. And according to legend, these Taoist sages knew how to create these pills, these beans, to increase their lifespan, get rid of their illnesses and injuries, and possibly even become immortal.
Cool.
Now, when it comes to Senzu and Dragon Ball, Yajirobe eats more than any character in history, and he does not become immortal, so that doesn't quite work in the series. Interestingly enough, Master Karin himself tells Goku that he's over 800 years old. So it makes you wonder, did he eat these beans and extend his lifespan? That is a question we may never get an answer to, but I think it makes the most sense because he is the one growing them. Now, even though Toriyama never thoroughly explains how these things work, to get the answer to that question, you have to look into the Taoist belief system of how their magical seeds worked, and it sort of makes sense for Dragon Ball. When you take a Senzu, or one of these magic pills, however you want to call them, all of your subconscious hidden energy comes up to the surface, sort of like how characters in Dragon Ball get their power unlocked.
Oh, like
it's
the potential
that, but
on
a much smaller scale. And energy, ki that is, flows all throughout your body, everywhere, sort of like on your arms, legs, and you sort of have this feeling of deep meditation. Derek Padula would describe it in his book as, and I quote, microcosmic high-energy matter from the subconscious dimensions within our body, aka dimensional layers beneath the molecules, atoms, protons, electrons, neutrons, all that stuff,
The Higgs
surging
boson.
up to the surface, having damage be undone, and having all the particles be refined. And thus, because of this, the reason that you don't have to eat for 10 days is because you have so much strong, high energy fueling your body that it
You
does
don't need
what
anything to
food is
fuel
supposed
that
to do,
energy,
and that's to
right.
provide energy to all the cells so that all of your cells have nutrients without the need for food. In addition to
That
that,
makes
it
sense.
also repairs
That
your
strangely
cells.
makes sense,
So
yeah.
that is the clearest and simplest
Your body's
explanation
already been supplied
of
with everything
what a
you need, then you
senzu
don't need to supply it
is,
with more
and
of...
where Toriyama got his
Yeah.
idea from. What if senzu were actually real?
Oh.
Now, obviously what they do in Dragon Ball, it's pretty impossible for one being to heal that many injuries, including
Don't ruin
bones,
my
but
dream, man.
what if there was a food that Dragon Ball inspired in the real world that can provide nutrients for your body? And we'll talk about it next as we close out with part 3.
Interesting. What? Real life inspiration. Interesting. Okay, let's see what we have on part 3.
It's always amazing to me when Dragon Ball can actually inspire someone to make the world better. Another story that Derek Padula found is the story of a Japanese inventor named Mitsuru Izumo who tried to invent a real-life senzu equivalent bean.
What?
There is a food supplement that his company sells called Euglena that provides the body with a complete day's worth of nutrients. He was interviewed in the 2013 Wall Street Journal article and actually confessed that it was Dragon Ball that inspired him to release this medicine.
Oh my god, that's
and
sick.
I quote from the interview,
That's
what
sick.
I realized
That's
was that the miracle
amazing.
the world needed was senzu. Senzu have all the nutrients people need, and so do Euglena, both plant and animal nutrients. And he pretty much goes on to say that it is
That's
the closest
amazing.
we've come to a real-life senzu. And you could even mix it with cookies and soup and things like that, whatever you want. And even though it might not give you immortality or heal you from broken bones, apparently it's able to give you lots of nutrients, sort of like a multivitamin, except with more stuff in it. I've never tried them before, but it's kind of cool.
Wow, that is awesome. That's so cool.
Inspired by Dragon Ball,
yeah.
and that always
That's
puts
class.
a smile on my face that the world's actually being made better because of inspiration from this little manga. So that's kind of cool.
That's
Anyways,
awesome.
I hope you enjoyed this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, and I hope you learned a lot about what senzu are, where they come from, and Toriyama's ideas behind them. I thank you once again for watching, and I wish you down the road. Take care of yourself and each other.
Wow. That's absolutely boss. I love that. Someone actually has gone out and tried to recreate the senzu bean. I know, it's just like bean. Always learn something new from these Geekdom videos, man. That's absolutely class. Not having to eat for 10 days because it's already supplied the body with the nutrients that it would need for the energy, so then it doesn't need to be supplied with what supplies the energy because it's already got everything there. Makes sense. It strangely makes sense. That was cool. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. See you guys next time.